As humans, we're naturally driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. When I was looking to hire someone, it was so slow and overwhelming. I wish I had used Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to the CJ Moneyway Show podcast, the podcast show where we unlock potential one dream at a time. Today, we have another guest whose journey is truly worth hearing. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the Moneyway experience.
What's up, my good people? Welcome to the CJ Moneyway Show in association with Believe Network, the podcast that brings you stories behind the success. Today, we have on the show coach, podcast host, author, and much more, Aneta Kuzma. How you doing today, Aneta?
I'm doing so well, CJ. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for taking time out your day to join the show. Appreciate it. So, Aneta, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your background.
Yeah, I would say I always start off and say, my number one role is mom. And now that my kids are older, last few years, I really turned to focusing more on myself, focusing more on designing the life that I loved. I spent 25 years in corporate, followed all the rules, did all the things that I thought I was supposed to do, all the definitions of society for success. And about 6 years ago, I left a really great job and a company and decided to take a chance on myself and take a leap of faith and start my own coaching and consulting business and do some of the other things that you mentioned as well.
Yeah, it's nothing like working for yourself. I can't wait until I get old enough to be like you and just walk away and do things on my own and do my own thing. But, just going through the journey and trying to accomplish those things is awesome. And I also know that it's a lot of hard work, when you trying to do things on your own and to walk away from corporate America to do your own thing. I know that was a big decision to make. 'Cause I got my pastor, he did the same thing. He was like VP of Morton Salt. And it was a tough decision to walk away from that and do the ministry full time. So he talks about it all the time. So I know that was a big stepping stone. So Aneta, talking about corporate America, tell us about your time in corporate America and how that experience changed your outlook on things.
It's interesting. I had some great years. I worked with the most amazing people. I believed in my leaders that I worked with. So I would say that the people probably kept me there for a long time. But I also felt like when I was at work, people always say, bring your full self, bring your authentic self to work. I never really felt like that actually was possible. I worked in financial services and I always felt like I had to just kind of put on a uniform every single day and play a role in the organization. So it wasn't really till I was in my mid-40s and I said, you know what, I think that I want to see what it's like to actually do something that feels completely aligned to who I am in full integrity. And I will tell you that when I did that, it felt like complete freedom that I've never felt in my life before.
Yeah, I understand it. Although I still work a 9 to 5 rotating shift, it's nothing like getting up, doing something that you want to do and something that you enjoy. I was just telling someone this yesterday. I'd never forget my father used to tell me when I was younger, he said, hey man, go to school and get your education so that you can have you a career. Something that you like to get, that you love to get up in the morning and enjoy to go to work and do what you're doing instead of having to get up and go to a job and do something that you have to do. Totally different.
It is, but you know what? It was my training ground. I feel like I learned so much about being a leader. I learned so much about actually what it means to run a business from the different roles that I had. I learned so much from the education that I had while I was in banking. I got my MBA. And so there's nothing that was ever wasted. Like, I think it's, whatever you are, wherever you are, everything that you've learned, everything that you're doing, you can bring to the next thing that you do. You're not starting from zero. You're actually starting from all that years of experience. You just might need to shift a little bit when you start to work for yourself. And of course, it's not for everyone, because there is definitely a risk to letting go of that steady paycheck. It's not for the faint of heart. I think you're either wired that way and you're comfortable, or for some other people, it really takes a lot of work to let go of the safety and the stability that sometimes having a job has.
I agree with you when you said that everything that you've done, you gain experience for your next level. So It's a story in the Bible where it talks about where he went through these certain things. He went through these different parts. And I always say he had to go through those things because it was developing something in him, even in places that you don't want to be. Like I may not want to be here. But it's something that he's developing in you that you're going to need for that next level, for that next step. And at that time, we just don't know it. We just don't know that we're going to need this skill set or we're going to need this knowledge from here or there. But it's worth it, though, in the end.
Oh, it's so true. And I've journaled always. And looking back on my journals, there were so many days where I actually prayed that God would show me what I should be doing next. And I thought I was waiting on God, but actually God was waiting on me to step out in my faith. And so he wasn't waiting for something. He was waiting for me to be ready. And I think sometimes that's really the work we have to do, is to look inward and say, am I ready to really step out and do the thing that I feel like I should be doing?
Yeah, get out of, that fear, the anxiety, worried about failing and things of that nature. And like you said earlier, like you said before, and then to get away from that nice, steady paycheck. That's the struggle. But we know that we serve a God that say that he won't leave us lack, and all things come through him in the first place. And we step out on his word and step out on what he wants us to do, then we'll see even better things. He'll even open up more doors. So let me ask you, Aneta, what inspired you to start your own company? And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So in my mid-40s, I think it was like 45, I hired a coach because I knew that I didn't want to retire from banking, even though I was there for 22 years and I learned so much. I just couldn't imagine staying there until the end of my career. But I couldn't figure it out on my own. I just couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. So I hired a coach and we went through a 6-month program with her one-on-one. And that's where I really did the internal work. I did the reflective work. I did a lot of exercises to say, what do I really want my life to look like? And what are my talents? What are my gifts? What's my purpose? What are the things that I absolutely want to bring forth in this world? And through that process, I was able to create a life vision that I loved so much that it made me cry every time. And it still does when I read it because it's so beautiful. And so from there, I started to create the action plan. So two years after I finished that coaching program, I was still at my job. I was still doing a great job. I was still getting promoted, getting, more responsibilities, but I was also taking action and sowing the seeds to my next step. And then 2 years later, when I was finally ready, it was one very clear October day where I just knew that it was time. And so I texted my boss and I said, hey, I need to talk to you this weekend. And I told him I'm ready. And so I stayed another 4 months or so just to kind of wrap things up and work with him on next steps with my team and strategy and stuff. But that's when I was ready. And I fell in love with the coaching process. Like, I just loved the work that my coach Roxanne and I did. And I thought, if I could help other people go through this process and help them figure out what they should be doing, what they really want to do, I know that I will be using all the gifts that I've been given for good. And so I did. So I do one-on-one coaching, and mostly I work with professionals and entrepreneurs and some spiritual entrepreneurs. I also do a lot of corporate wellness programs. Burnout is definitely something that continues to be very prevalent. And so I love working with organizations, helping them become more resilient, teaching them tools and techniques that they can employ at work or at home just to be able to control stress, to also work on being the best version of themselves. I got certified in yoga and meditation and somatic breath work during my process of getting my coaching certifications. And all of those practices have really helped me in so many ways. And so I'm able to incorporate those with others. And then I got to write a book. I'm writing a second book right now. And I launched my podcast a couple of years ago. And I do retreats all over the world. So I'm living the vision that I set for myself.
That's a beautiful thing. Couple of things that you said. One was the talents, using the talents that you had. And just talking to somebody the other day about the same thing, about how a lot of times we can bury our talents. And then you're looking for them, you're looking for the talents, or you're looking for things in life and wondering why your life is not going well because you have buried the talent that God sent you forth with. And then you wonder why things not going the way that they can, because the story says that the two that went out and multiplied their talents. So I'm listening to you. So when you use the talents that you've been given, he will multiply talents. And so it opens up more doors and more opportunities for things that your talent, that your talent, because he's adding on. But a lot of us had our talents and don't want to go back, because I don't want that talent that God gave me, as we were saying earlier. I don't think that that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Well, he said, well, okay, then. Just keep on doing what you're doing until you go back and undo that talent. You said something about seeds. There's been a big thing on my podcast for the last 2 weeks. Everybody that's come on has talked about the seeds. And that's going to be the title of my new podcast that I'm coming out with next year, Planting Seeds with CJ. Because
I love that.
And now that when you said that, it just made me think, because that's what we're doing. Even with the clients that you're working with, we don't know if they're going to, heed to the instructions or the things that you're giving them. So all we can do is plant the seed, seed.
That's right. And it's so funny that you're talking about this. I was just journaling on the parable of the talents actually this week. And it made me think about this idea of that many of us are hoarding. We're holding tight our talents, and that could be money, that could be our time. It could be the gifts that we've been given. It could be the things that we're good at. It could be many different things. But yes, the two that were rewarded were the two that took what God gave them. And then they were able to do more because they multiplied. They invested in them. They trusted that they would grow, and then they were rewarded. And the one that wasn't, of course, was reprimanded, and what he had, he was taken away from him. And that is our lesson. And the other lesson I saw when I was rereading that passage was that the one that got 2 didn't say, "Why did I only get 2?" and he got 5. It's none of our business, right? We take what we've been given. We don't all have the same purpose. We don't have the same gifts. We don't know how it will unfold. All we have to do is to take what we have and then make sure that we are utilizing and using it for good. And I think that always comes back to a place of service. It comes back to love. It comes back to no separation between us as humans, and doing what we can where we are with what we have.
Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Shopify is there to help you grow. Shopify helps you sell everywhere, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, and sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. What I love about Shopify is how no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take control and take your business to the next level. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., and Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way, because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
As humans, we're naturally driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. When I was looking to hire someone, it was so slow and overwhelming. I wish I had used Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Yeah. And on that note, and the final thing that I would like to say about that is, like, people like yourself, I love what you guys are doing to the point where you can put yourself to the side, as far as caring for being a service to others, want to see others do well in life, want to see others succeed and fulfill their dreams. And so we need people like yourselves and other coaches that's out here doing those type of things to help others grow, because we need that. And if we didn't have people that was willing to sacrifice their time, their information, because a lot of us, we can do well in life, but we really don't care about how others succeed in life, But people like yourself, not only are you succeeding in life, like you said, traveling around the world, doing things that you enjoy, but you have the desire to see others do the same thing as well. And I think that's very unique in the things that you guys are doing. So now, tell me, you brought it up not too long ago. Tell us a little bit about your podcast and what can listeners expect from it.
Yeah. So the title of the podcast is Live the Width of Your Life. And it came from a quote that I read when I was probably not living the width of my life, when I was probably burned out and working really hard and just trying to survive. And the quote said, Diane Ackerman said, "I don't want to get to the end of my life and realize that I just lived the length of it. I want to have lived the width of it." And as I thought about that, I thought, the goal is not just to get to the age of 90 or 100. The goal is actually for the days that we have been given, which we can't control, but to take everything we can out of those days, to live it so fully, to live it so intentionally, to live it with such sense of purpose and peace. And so my podcast, I just have people on who have taken a chance, who have done something a little bit different, who've maybe taken the long way around to find their life's purpose. And so you get people from all walks of life. I just think that the everyday stories are what inspires us, because if you hear someone else's story, you could say, wow, that sounds like me. Or if they did it, I could do that. Or if they overcame that, then maybe I can overcome what I'm dealing with. And so I love having conversations with people. I just think it's so amazing. It makes the world so much smaller. And we realize just how much we have in common versus the divisiveness that we see on the news and everywhere else. So I think it's a gift to be able to do that.
Don't miss out on CJ Moneyway's book, Both Eyes Open and Both Eyes Shut. And get ready to pre-order his upcoming release, The Issues of Life, coming soon. Moneyway, aiming to inspire.
Yeah, and as we was talking before we started, that's how I like my podcast, because for the simple fact, people can hear and be like, wow, she's going through that, or because a lot of times we just feel like we're the only ones going through something. And then when you hear somebody else that went through it and that has overcome it, and then it gives you inspiration and hope, and so that's why thank you for doing the podcast that you're doing. And people always thanking me for doing what I'm doing, because it does give people a glimmer of hope. Like, wow, let's keep on doing what we're doing, because when people hear certain things, it can inspire them that, hey, I too can get past it, because the Bible tells us, and that it tells us that he is not just for one person, he's a God of all, so if he did it for you, he'd do it for me. And so if he brought you out of corporate America and put you on a trial to, to explore the world, he can do it for somebody else too, because he's not just the God of me, a God of you. He's the God of all. And so
that's right.
On that note, Thank God. So Aneta, you was talking about your book earlier. You was talking about your book. You said that you're starting the second book. Can you tell us a little bit about your book and what can readers expect to take from it?
Yeah, so I wrote a book that I wanted to read. And so my book is called the same thing as my podcast, Live the Width of Your Life. And it really is set up as a daily meditation, daily devotional. Every month has a different theme. So this month, we're in the month of November, so it's gratitude. So at the beginning of each month or each day, actually, there's a quote, then there's about a page, sometimes a page and a half, a passage to read. And then every day also has either a journal prompt or a challenge. And that really is so that we move past just reading something and consuming it and actually taking action on it as well. And so it's bite-sized pieces of inspiration every day. And when I wrote the book, I just had visions of people having it on their nightstand. And maybe when they wake up in the morning, they're reading it, or maybe in the kitchen while they're having their cup of coffee, or with reading it at the dinner table with their family. And I also had this vision of people buying it for loved ones and saying, hey, this is something I'm doing. Maybe you'd like to also read the same thing and then we can talk about it. And so it's just been such a joy to see people receive it and to actually purchase it. And I hear so often people say, oh, I bought this for my aunt and I bought it for my mom and I bought it for my cousin. And, you know, because I wanted them to also have a little bit of something inspiring every day to read. So it's just been such a gift. And I read it. My husband and I read it with our coffee every morning because I don't feel that I wrote it. I think I was just the vessel and the creator wrote through me. And so I also still benefit from reading it every day.
Yeah, it's a joy. Like, you know, and listening to you say that, I remember it was 9 years ago last Friday, I published my first book. And I never forget, my father told me, he said, cause I used to let him, you know, read the excerpts and things of that nature. And he told me, he said, look here, man. He said, look, if nobody ever reads your book, he said, as long as you did something for yourself, that's all that matters. And then everything else will take care of itself. And it made me think about that when you said that, you know, you was the vessel and how you and your husband read a page or so every day. So you did it for yourself. You know, it's a bonus for people to buy it on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles or wherever they sell books. But I did something for myself. I accomplished something that I set out to do for myself. And now you're reaping the benefits or reading back to what you wrote every day, inspiring yourself all over again.
That's right.
I didn't remember writing that part. That was pretty good.
That's so true. We have that sometimes. Or my husband will say, what were you thinking when you wrote that? And I'm like, I don't know.
Out of body experience. So before we go any farther, where can we get the book from? Where can we find the book? And where can we follow you on social media?
Yeah, I would say the easiest place for everything tied to me is my website. So anetakuzma.com. And I have all my links to my socials on channels there. I also have the place where you can buy the book. There's a journal that goes with the book. Both are available on Amazon. You can find my podcast anywhere where podcasts are, but you'll find the link on my website as well. So yeah, that's a great place for people to start. I have some free services. So one of the things I do is breath work. I do breath work class every Thursday at noon Eastern time for people who want to maybe just reset, to re-energize, to learn some new practices. That's at noon. And you can register, do that for free. And I also do a free 45-minute coaching consultation. So if someone's listening and they're thinking, hey, maybe she can help me figure out what I want to do or figure out what my vision is, I do have that as an option. You can, find time on my calendar for that.
Cool. And so for the listeners, I will have her website posted in the show notes when this come out, so you can check it out there and follow and buy a book and get some of her free coaching programs so that maybe one day you too can travel around the world. So Aneta, we was talking about it a little bit previously. So I would just like for you to expand on it a little bit. So tell us about your spiritual journey and your personal growth.
Gosh, my spiritual journey has just been a lifetime in the making. I would say I sat at the foot of my grandparents, who were very, very devout and just would read from their Bibles. And I had a grandmother who would read scripture and then ask me, what do you think that means? And so I felt at a young age that the word was alive and it was available to me personally. And so I always felt like My first Bible study class was with her. And then I continued to be fascinated. I read the Bible in high school, I think, the first time, the entire thing, and just always was very curious about the people because I did believe they were real people. So for me, it was just such an experience to go deeper. And then I took comparative religion courses in college because I always felt like there was this universal thread of love, across all people. And so I was curious to understand what other folks believe and how that ties us together. And then, as I went deeper into some of the Eastern practices of yoga and meditation, I also found threads that continue to just keep bringing me back to my Christian faith. And so for me, it's just continued to become more and more personal and deeper and deeper. And the cool thing about scripture is that every time I read it, something new will pop out. And that's why I love to say, the word is alive. So that's been in my journey, and I'm sure it will continue to be on my journey for the rest of my life, hopefully.
I giggled at that because yesterday I did an interview with this lady, Beth, on her podcast. I did an interview with her. And she asked me a question similar to that, about my faith and, how did it come about? And I told her, the Bible say that train up a child in the way that they should go. And when they get older, they won't depart from it. And I was telling her how my mother, took me to church when I was at a young age and things of that nature. And something that you just said made me think about what I said to her too, is that my father, he introduced me to the concordance, right? Because the Bible says, study to show thyself approved. And so, he studied that Bible. That's all he used to do, sit down there in the basement and study it. And so when I started reading, when I came into my own and started reading, of course, you don't really understand it. You're trying to. And he said, man, every time you read it, he said, you can read the same passage again. He said, you just scratching the surface. He said, because every time you read it, he said, you'll find something different in it because of your elevation and because of the maturity level of what God is taking you now. You will see the same scriptures different than you saw at the time before. And I hold that to be true. Genesis 37 to 45, the story of Joseph. Every time I read it, Aneta, I see something different that I didn't see that I didn't see before, but it's the same words that I read the last time. And so I read that to be true because, man, I love the word of God. I love how he dissects it, because she asked me a question as far as how do you listen to God? I say, for one, I cut off the radio a lot of time. I had to work with no radio on, things of that nature. And then I say, then the second part is reading. When you read, it's like you said earlier, like he's just speaking to you. You know what I'm saying? It's just talking to you, because I can't talk about life without talking about the word. And I can't talk about the word without talking about life, because this is us. This is a part of us. The Bible, basic instructions before leaving earth. He's given us basic instructions about our life, so I love these type of conversations because, like I said, I love the word of God. I know who I trust, and I love talking to people that have the same faith and the same, belief as I have. So, Aneta, let me ask you two more questions and I'll let you go on to your busy day. How do you develop self-care practices and routine to reduce stress and the word that you brought out earlier, burnout?
Burnout, yeah. So for me, my morning practices are really important. And because we're talking about God, for me, my time in the morning is, I call it my date with the divine. That's me and God time. And so for me, it's starting each day in scripture, in spiritual texts, and quiet time. It's in prayer. It's in meditation. When I meditate, there's the saying that says, when we pray, we are speaking to God. And when we meditate, we are listening. And so I do feel like I hear so distinctly from God when I'm just sitting quietly. Like you said, there's nothing on. It's just me sitting there breathing and listening and calling in the spirit. And that is my time. That sets my day. I set an intention. I hear directly from God what I'm supposed to be doing. And then being in nature. For me, being in nature is an opportunity to appreciate the beauty of creation. And I think that's an extension of what God created for us to be able to see and to notice it. And when we are so busy and we are so distracted in our minds, we don't even notice the things that we have been given to appreciate through the five senses as a human, right? We are these spiritual beings in this physical body. We get to experience the beauty of this earth. And I think that in our busy world, people are burned out because they are separated. They have separated themselves. They've forgotten that there's this connection there and they could return back to it anytime. So for me, those are my practices and they're non-negotiable. They're non-negotiable. And even if I only have 15 minutes instead of longer, I will make sure that I go outside. I will make sure that I spend some time in gratitude, that I'm breathing a little bit, maybe moving the body, reading something that's inspiring. But it's just showing up every single day with that intention in the morning. And then in the evening, we usually finish in gratitude. My husband and I, we just say, what are 3 things you're most grateful for that happened today? And it's a beautiful way to go to sleep, thinking about something that was just so good.
So I know you say that this month is gratitude. And so since we're almost at the end of this month, what's your word for next month so that I can already be ahead and for next month?
In the book, the next month is hope and reflection.
Gotcha.
Hope for the upcoming year and reflection and all the things that we already got to experience.
That's a good one. So I got one more question for you. Then I'll let you go. How can someone find their purpose and learn to dream again?
Right? That is the hardest part. As adults, sometimes we forget to dream because when we dreamed when we were young, someone told us inevitably, that's crazy. You can't do that. You should be more practical. So I start asking people what their values are. What are the things that are most important to them? And define those really clearly. Like, how do you want to live your life? What are the things that are so important? And once we build those as our life guidelines, then I usually take folks on a little bit of a visualization meditation, get them really relaxed and to a place with their eyes closed where we take a little trip and their subconscious mind knows exactly what it is that they want. And they sometimes will open their eyes afterwards and say, I had no idea. Why would I say that? I didn't know I wanted to move somewhere else, or that's crazy. I thought for sure I'd still live in this house, or wow, I didn't see myself doing that. And the answers are within, right? We know that the answers are within us. It's just a matter sometimes of giving ourselves permission to dream without having to figure out the how. We usually have the dream, but we stop ourselves because we don't know how it's going to happen. And that's where faith comes back in. We don't necessarily have to figure out the how. We say what, right? Ask, believe, receive. And so that's where I start with my clients.
So, Aneta, I appreciate you coming on, dropping all these nuggets and wisdom on us today. So in closing, you brought this up earlier. So in closing, for somebody who's in between jobs but afraid to step out on faith, what type of advice would you give them right now?
If they're in between jobs, like
they're at the job and faith is telling them to walk away, but they're afraid to walk away from it. What type of advice would you give them?
I'd say don't walk away yet. I'd say build the bridge to where you want to go while you are where you are. I stayed 2 years. And because for me, I'm not the type of person that was ready to say, yeah, let me just quit and then let me figure it out. I think I probably would have ran back to another job. And so you'll know the day when you are ready. And so if you've got the inkling, start building the bridge, start getting the certification, start researching, start saving some money to put it aside, start a side hustle. There are plenty of things that we can do while we still are where we are, still honor where you are, show up in integrity, do a good job where you are. But when you know that outside of work, you're building something for yourself that you want to go to, it will not be exhausting. It will be exhilarating. You can do all of that while you are where you are. So that's, I think, something that sometimes people think, oh, you just have to quit and then you're going to figure it out. No, it doesn't work that way for a lot of us. A lot of us still need the stability without the fear of the money right away. And then we actually are more creative and even have even more desire to try to build something bigger because we still have the job that's kind of supporting these dreams.
Yeah, you was talking to me right there. Still where I'm at, working and building. So thank you for that. Yeah, and building. So you heard it right here on the CJ Moneyway Show. Aneta Kuzma said, build a bridge, give it 2 years, do your thing. Hey, you have been listening to the CJ Moneyway Show with your boy CJ Moneyway. We out of here. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the CJ Moneyway Show. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends, leave a comment, and drop a review. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday and Friday for more inspiring journeys. Who knows? Your story might be next.
As humans, we're naturally driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. When I was looking to hire someone, it was so slow and overwhelming. I wish I had used Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey everybody, I'm Trevor Sikkema, host of the PFF NFL Show, here to tell you what you can find on all of our shows throughout the week. On Mondays, we have the Grade Release Show, where myself and Dalton Washman break down every single game that you just saw in the NFL. On Tuesdays, we have the Quarterback Breakdown with Seth Galina. On Wednesdays, we've got the Rookie Review with John Ledyard and the preview for the upcoming week in the NFL. So make sure you are subscribed to the PFF NFL Show wherever you get your podcasts.